some people are like, well, I get 10 million bucks. And then it's like, it's what you do with it that would really matter for the next 30 years, 40 years. Like, I mean, we could have massive inflation. You can make some stupid investments with it. Like, if it's not managed properly and you're not paying attention to it, then it could go real quick.
Yeah, I can understand that 100%, especially someone that's not used to it. 100%. All right,
Yeah.
so we'll talk about that. So I appreciate you coming on early. That's cool. Basically, I think you know why I'm doing this, but I just wanted to get people out there. So, for example, I talked to one person so far. I have a whole list, but it's early. I just got back from Disney, so and I have a whole bunch of people in my calendar. But the person I talked to, literally, I've never talked to anybody that is and expressed the same exact thing that I go through, that I felt like I was like alone in, that they go through with their wife and working from home and all that. It was really interesting. So, and I was talking to him and I was like, if there's like, just if people can just listen to these 30 days and find somebody that they go, oh my God, I go through that same shit, or I deal with that too. Like it just creates like a nice environment for people, if that makes sense.
Yes. It's not easy working from home and having a family. It's really difficult. And so, yeah.
I have questions here, and we'll also create it as a conversation, and we'll make it about 30 to 40 minutes. I'll just start off like, you already told me, but tell the audience where you live, how long you've been married, how many kids you have, and what you do for a living right now.
Okay. Yeah. So right now I'm in Austin, Texas. Been here for 2 years. Before that, I was in Utah for 17 years. Got married super young, did a Mormon mission. And so I got home from my Mormon mission when I was 21, met my wife now on my mission. She was 17. So we get married like right away, right when I get home, like a month after she turns 18, we get married.
Whoa.
And the Mormon way is like, hey, have kids, build a family, kind of that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So she wanted to have kids right away, and I said, let's at least try to wait a year. I mean, when we got married, I didn't have a job. We were in an apartment that was like $400 a month, that had no heating or air, like mold in it, right? Like,
yeah, you just got back from your mission.
Let's get some baseline, right? Of like, I mean, I was just super stressed to the max because, you want to be able to provide and like, create this life, for your wife and your future family. So we waited a year, luckily, before we had kids. And that gave me some establishment as far as life. I was, into sales, and I was doing pretty good at that point. And so we had kids right away. Had a daughter, she's 16 now, driving and dating boys and that whole thing. And then my oldest boy, he's 14. He's playing football right now with his friends at the field. And then my youngest is 11. So he's just next door in the main house, just chilling. So
you said the main house. What do you have? Two houses on that property there?
I'm in the guest house right now, so I don't get bothered, right? Because you never know if they like come in and like what's going on. So
yeah,
I figured I was like get interrupted. So hang out here and do this. So yeah.
I appreciate it, man. So this is just a curious question. I ask, it's a mindful impact podcast normally. I'm doing like this, obviously 30-day series is a little different. Do you meditate by any chance?
A little bit. I've been doing a lot more. Like this last 6 months, I've done a complete overhaul of just self-exploration. Meditation's been part of it, breathing exercises. I've gone to personal therapy once a week, couples therapy once a week. Like I've had this total just rebooting of my identity and what I want, everything this last 6 months. So meditation has been part of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I'll stop you there. Let's back up. Let's just go right to 6 months ago, and we'll jump around in this conversation. But what triggered that decision to start all this? What was going on?
Honestly, I was going down a path that I wasn't happy with, and I made some really stupid decisions. You're pretty familiar with the internet space, obviously, and stuff that kind of goes down at some of the events and things. And so I just made some really stupid decisions. Not to go in a lot of detail, but we can if you want. I haven't really publicly, it's not easy to talk about the stupid decisions you make, of course. So that was a big thing where I had to really, work through that and work through that with my wife and together. And so that's kind of what triggered it all.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in the same space for a while, and you've been in it a lot longer than I have, obviously. So, there's you're on your networking trips and you never know. And I won't ask you to get into specifics if you don't want to. Yeah, I can understand how that could happen 100%. We see all types of things out there. And you, I'm trying to ask this question in the best way possible, but why didn't you decide this, I don't know, 2 years ago? Why did you hit, was it almost like you hit a rock bottom and kind of you really screwed up and you're like, all right, I need to make some changes. What the hell am I doing? I can't be making this a mistake again. Is that kind of?
Yeah, that's it. It is a rock bottom moment where I'm like, who the fuck am I? What do I want in life? What am I about? What's most important to me? And yeah, that's really what triggered it.
So what did you find that you had I guess what was important to you before kind of thing, or what did you think was important to you? And then what did you find now that you realize actually matters and what's most important?
I think, as a lot of successful entrepreneurs, the scoreboard's always usually the money and what's happening. And, where you put your focus on usually get results. And sometimes with that, you don't keep inventory of what else is in your life is important, which is your wife and your kids and your health and all these other things that, you talk about as far as having to keep that balance. How do you do it all, right? And for me, my focus was just way too much on the businesses and what was happening. And I just didn't give the attention that I need. I took it for granted. I think we do. We just take our families for granted. We take our health for granted. We take just things for granted. And when you lose sight and you don't pay attention to those things, stuff can spiral out of control.
Yeah. And did you, from an awareness standpoint, and this is from an awareness standpoint, were you aware of the fact that you weren't, or did you think that you what you were doing as far as on autopilot of trying to get more money and trying to build a business and trying to grow and kind of missing some stuff when it comes to family or a relationship and not working on that as much as you probably should have? Were you even aware of that much, or you just kind of on cruise control, just because as a male, as the probably breadwinner, I'm assuming, and for the history of just always, on the hustle and on the grind and trying to make money and make a living in the quote unquote best life you think for your family. Was it more like that, or were you even aware of it? You know what I mean?
I don't think I was aware of it. And I think, if you're having success, it's easy to justify not being emotionally there for your partner, because you're like, I don't know why you're not happy. I'm crushing it. Last I checked, you spent $200,000 last year on the Amex. What are you not happy about? Our lives are awesome. But I was not emotionally there. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we just don't feel. We've learned to shut out our feelings and emotions because we're just so that doesn't serve me. It's a defense mechanism. So I'm just gonna go. And I just wasn't emotionally there for her. So she would be like, I don't like you going on these trips. I don't like when you leave me. You're not, and I just was like, this is what I do. And I wasn't there for her, right? Emotionally there. I just assumed everything was great because I was a great provider. But God, there's just so much more to it than that, right? So
it was almost like, Jamie, I can totally understand, man. I've been through it. It was almost like, I hear you, but here's how it is kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually not even really hearing your partner in honesty, right? Because no matter what they say, you're going to do what you're going to do no matter what. So they just feel unheard no matter what, right?
Yeah. They're not part of the equation. You're making a unilateral decision on what you're going to do. And it's let
me ask you this,
not
dude.
Fair.
No, it's not fair. And did you make, and this is something that I struggled with personally. So I want to ask you, because you were making so much money and doing so well and being the primary breadwinner, did you make some financial decisions without consulting her? Some larger?
You know, our relationship was always where she really had no
I'm losing. You're cutting out really bad. Sorry, man.
desire
Oh,
to want to be a part of really was like a part of that. So
Jamie, you froze.
I think I'm losing you a little bit.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah. I could hear you, but you're frozen too.
Okay. You froze and I didn't hear any of that.
Oh, dang it. Yeah. So she's never really been part of the equation when it comes to money.
Okay.
So, you know, we got married, like I said, really young, and her role, she just wanted to be the mother, the caretaker, you know, handle the household, and never really had a desire to learn about the money. And so I almost have to force her to like be a part of that world with me, you know,
Yeah.
like, hey, here's our trust. And if I die, like, this is what happens. And like, you know, like you need to know like the basics of our investments and our will and trust and all the craziness that I have. Like you need to have a basic understanding, because if I died, it would be bad. Like you need to know. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. There's something there, I think, in some relationships where they like, as I'm sure they want to know, because I talked to my wife about this, but I don't know, there's something, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird, because the dynamic comes from them being like, oh, you know, I don't feel like I contribute financially. So it's a weird conversation for me to have and feel like I should have the input and know, but I want to, but it's, you know what I mean? It's an interesting dynamic, I think.
Yeah. And a lot of times she feels like, oh, I don't contribute. And, you know, and she kind of gets down on herself, but you know, running a household and raising a family, I'm like, that stuff's not easy either. And so, you know, I've been trying to let her in, or try to give her some things that make her feel like she can contribute more. And so that way you're just more a part of the team, because I want her to be part of the equation of like everything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just the kind of negotiating to figure out what works best for each partner. Because we got married so young that she never really had a career and worked and managed her own money. And she was just turned 18, right? Whereas couples now, they're more established. They get married later. They have kids later. Like they're used to managing their money, like kind of what's mine's mine. It's a totally different dynamic. So whatever works for each partnership, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's all about that clarity and open communication. So what has been your biggest breakthrough in this early stage of your transformation and finding your new identity?
It's you know, really being honest and transparent, how important that is. Being able to feel like, you know, doing some somatic type work and just understanding how to deal with emotions. You know, I had a lot of issues with avoiding confrontation and just some other like issues that, you know, cycles that we kind of all go through. And unless you really peel back and figure out how to handle it, it'll always be there.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, yeah, honesty, transparency, allow myself to feel, has really been the biggest breakthroughs.
Yeah. So when's the last time that you actually cried?
Man,
And why?
I cried last week. I mean, I used to like never cry, but this last 6 months or so, it happens frequently. And so
what about before that?
I don't even remember it. I don't think I ever cried.
I'm just, yeah, this is just, that's two interviews in a row. It's been that situation. It's very interesting talking to people, I'll tell you. Cause I was the same way. I get it, man. I'm with you. I get it.
Yeah. It's still a fight to allow yourself to get to a place where you can feel vulnerable, for sure. Right.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's not easy.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Have you, when it comes to like, expectations of yourself, what I guess let's not even ask that. Like, what kind of things for me? So you know how to answer this. So for me personally, I thought I needed like freedom, and freedom meant like getting millions and millions of dollars. Like that was my top priority. And every day I would wake up and that would be my number one goal. Even when I had kids, I'm like, I got to get more money so I can have that freedom and get to that level that I want. And that was like, and it just drove me nuts. It made me miserable, and I realized it pretty quickly. It took me a couple of years, but I realized it pretty quickly. And then what happened was, I mean, Tony Robbins was a huge influence in this, but realizing that, just love, kindness, integrity, health, those were the things that actually I cared about the most. And once I focused on that first, that's when things started really changing for me as far as my like happiness in my business and everything. So what was it like for you before?
Yeah, that's great that you found that. Yeah, that's good that you found that relatively quick, that you didn't keep going down that path, right? Like,
yeah, because I could have easily done that. And it was only, honest to God, I give it like a lot of credit to Tony for that. It sounds cheesy, but it's a fact.
No, his programs are insane for sure. I've read his books and his programs. I still want to go to like Date with Destiny and some of with my wife and I have talked about that, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I was in the same way up until, probably relatively recently, where you equate, having financial freedom to ultimate happiness. And you can't be happy unless you're financially free. And that obviously isn't true. Like you've realized that love and friendships and those things are far more important. And if that's the nucleus, then you can kind of build from there, not the other way around. And so I'm doing it reverse, and it is kind of nice to not have to worry about money. Like as far as like, how am I going to eat, or can we take a trip or not? Like we don't have to worry about that, but it isn't as important as we all think. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like when's enough kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
Do you think it was like, okay, so you sold a business, right? Or you made a whole boatload of money in the past, right? Is that?
Yeah. I've sold a couple, but not like huge,
right.
big scores. But yeah, I've made a bunch of money and been really good at saving it and
investing it. Yeah, I know you invested with like Grant Cardone and stuff. I know you're open about that, so that's why I said this kind of thing.
I like apartments for sure. He's not the only syndicator that I work with, but he's great, and I love his philosophy and what he does.
Yeah, and you did take some time off, right?
Yeah, I did.
How was that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I took some time off in 2014. I thought I hit my magic number, right? Whatever that was. And I was like, I'm just going to play golf all day, and I'm just going to this is it, right? Like I was super burned out from the biz op space or whatever. I had call centers, and I'd been in call centers for 12 years before that or whatever, like a long time, and just grinding 12 hours a day. And I just was like, I'm done. I made it to the finish line. And then literally after 4 or 5 months of golfing every day and everyone else is working, and then you go through identity crisis of like, I'm not important, like no one's relying on me, like what am I doing? Inevitably I went back to work after that and got into the nutraceutical space.
Yeah. And that's, it was interesting because I threw a post up today, and then as soon as I put it up, I'm like, you're the first person that came to mind, because I remember talking to you about that. My post was, for the people listening, it was like, if you got $10 million, would you just retire or would you start a new business? And as soon as I put that up, I remember talking to you a few years ago about this, and you were like, dude, like everybody else is working. I was getting bored. I can't do that. And it made total sense. And you even had kids at the time too, but they have their own lives too, right?
Yeah.
Especially as they get older.
They have their own lives. And then I think, there's this huge misconception of like retired, right? Like, I think you should retire from the stuff you don't like, because like, if you look at the word retire, that's like to die, like it's no longer, right?
Yeah.
So like everyone should have a goal to retire from the shit they hate to do. I agree with that. But like, if you love doing what you're doing and you love building businesses or whatever, then like that's a stupid question. Why would you ever die from that? Why would you ever quit that? And so I think society's linked retirement to like being rich. And so someone asks, well, I'm retired. Basically, oh, you're rich then, right? Like you don't have to worry about money. But the rich guy with money worries more about money than the guy who doesn't. Because if you have money, you're worried about it. Like, how do I protect it? How am I getting yield on it? How am I most tax efficient? Like like they're constantly like, like, so they're worried about money, but it's just kind of this funny label that society has put on that. And I just challenge people to think differently on that. Like, if you love what you're doing, like, there's really no reason to quit. But if you hate it, yeah, work towards retiring from that to do something you love to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective on money, because as you say that, I remember the days where the only worry I really had was, how am I going to get my next paycheck or my next dollar to pay my bills? Do I have enough to pay my credit cards? Do I have enough? And then I would file my W-2s at the end of the year and on TurboTax and move on, and now I think I've stressed over it more than I ever have in the past because of all what you just said. And I never really even thought about that, from like a humble perspective or whatever, when you make more, it comes with different problems,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
You have something to lose. Like, when you're grinding and you're paycheck to paycheck and you're just starting out, like, you got nothing to lose. So there isn't really like much to worry about. And then you get, say you sell the business, you get $2 million, like, you may think there isn't anything to worry about, but there is. Like, there's, how do you protect your treasure, and how does your treasure grow? Those aren't easy accomplishments or easy things to work on as people think.
Let me ask you this. What about, and I don't know what your family or cousins or dynamic is, but did you ever get phone calls from some extended family and stuff that you had to say no to in regards to borrowing money or special investments?
Family's been super cool. Like, every now and then, they'll pick my brain a little bit just on a basic level. Hey, what are you investing in? And, because I was telling people to try to get into crypto fairly early. And I tell people that, to put a good chunk into domestic real estate apartments. And like I said, Grant's a good syndicator. There's others out there. And just kind of encourage people to do their own, like, managing their money and pay attention to it, because most people just don't pay attention to it or don't have the desire. And I find it fascinating, because it's like, why not spend a little bit of time and learn basic fundamentals and principles that it can help your wealth grow, and it'll give you more confidence. So I haven't had anyone trying to be leeches or anything like that, which has been great. My family's awesome, and my extended family's awesome too. So
yeah, the reason I ask is I've heard many stories about them people having to learn to say no to different people. Hey, I need 10 grand for this investment in this new company. It could be huge, and you'd be like, all right, yeah. You say yes the first few times and you lose it, and then you have to learn to say no to some people, which happened to me a couple times. It wasn't family; it was like random old friends, and it was so stupid of me, and looking back on it, but I've learned.
Yeah, no, I made a dumb investment recently with like my best friend that lives out here and stuff, and I was like, yeah, that was dumb. But I think we all like we think with our emotions a lot, and so it's kind of that's always a tricky thing.
Sure. What did your work family balance look like? For the past 5 years, and then most recently over the past 6-7 months, what does it look like?
Recent, it's been great, right? So like, since I'm regrouping and I just trying to be present, be there for them, take them to school every now and then, pick them up, every activity, just there, right? Before that, in the call center world, I was a weekend dad. And so I'd be at the call center for at least 12 hours a day, just grind. And then Saturday afternoon, I'd come home all day Sunday. And I was able to do a pretty good job of leaving work at work and then just come home, and it was all about the kids and us. And that kind of worked. It worked because the family knew what to expect. And that was great. When I got into the internet marketing stuff, and you're running offers and it's 24/7, and then lots of money's rolling in, and then I just became so in my head, and that almost to the point where I feel like my family is starting to become a nuisance to me. That's really shitty even to say or hear myself say that. But like, it just felt like I was so obsessed with just all of that. And that I was like, oh, I'm being pulled here or there, but I got to focus on this deal and that deal, that deal. And I was just, and so I would, even though I was present and I would work from home a lot, we would go on trips and stuff, I wasn't emotionally there for my family the way I needed to be. And so, yeah, thank God I'm figuring that out now before it's too late.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. I appreciate your vulnerability there. And just to relate to you, the same thing. I would get hang out before my son was born. I was hanging out with my daughter, and after 10 minutes, I start getting almost annoyed. Like I got, 24/7, like you said, the offer business. And I'm like, I can get back and like, split test my offer and look at
Yeah.
sales and get more people to hit it and do all this stuff. Like I can't be spending all this time with you. And then the holidays started to get annoying too. I'm like, what's up? The holidays are just getting in the way of business. Like what the fuck?
Right.
Right. And like
Yeah.
how it's like, I was talking to my wife about it. I don't know, a few months ago. And she's like, that was like real life Scrooge, right? You were real life Scrooge from the movie. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, terrible, right? Saying it out loud, it's gross. But
It's so true though.
yeah,
It's so
good.
true.
Yeah, I appreciate your vulnerability there, talking about that. What do you think definition of a real man is right now? Like a real man, what do you think that means?
You mean like as far as like a family man, or
Yes,
just
yeah, we're talking all family here. We're talking
Okay.
that's what it's all about. Yep.
Yeah, I think a real man is someone that not only provides. I think that's a huge component. You can't be a deadbeat father, or, or husband, and not be, a provider to like the basic needs and everything. But as I mentioned, to be emotionally really there for your family, so that they can count on you, trust on you, feel secure, and have their needs be met, right? And so, I'm sure you've read the His Needs, Her Needs. I've followed some of your content. It seems like you've done a really good job of like exploring that world as far as fulfilling your guys' needs and things. And so the kids are the same way. Like we've had them fill out, what their needs are. So I kind of know my daughter's quality time. I know my son's more words of affirmation. And so you try to I think being a real man and husband and father is just being mindful of your family and what your role is and how you can be there for them.
That reminds me of what we said earlier, what you said earlier in this conversation when you were like, you spent 200 grand on the Amex. How could you not be happy? Like, what do you mean? Like, why? Instead of just being like you just said is, what do you need from me? Like, what makes you happy? Like, what do you want? Not what I want, what I think you want. Like, what do you want? And you did that with your kids too. That's beautiful. I never even thought of that or heard anybody talk about that. I've heard of making vision statements for the family and rules together, but never figuring out what their needs are and what they like.
Yeah. I mean, yours are obviously young, and as they get older, I think that becomes more important because, it definitely makes them think. Like I'll ask my son, like, how can I be a better father to you? Like, what do you need from me? And, they're just kind of like, wow, okay, well, I like it when you play video games with me. I like that I can tell you stuff. And so I think just having them know that you're there is huge.
Yeah. And have you noticed, I know it's only been a few, short months, but with this change that you're going through, which is like for people listening, it's a major change. If you haven't made a shift from who you've been for years and years and years, I mean, I don't have to say it, but like to shift, it's weird. It's a weird feeling. People around you don't believe it at first. I mean, a lot of things go through. So do your kids notice anything? Have they said anything to you different? Or are you noticing something?
Yeah. I mean, the connection, is definitely better. And so.
Like the love kind of connection?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You definitely feel it. Even my youngest son, and he's a little bit trickier because, he's autistic. And so, even I would notice before he would have more of like, I want mom, or if I try to take him to bed or like doing, he's like, where's mom at? Oh, I hate you, dad. Because I was always like the enforcer, kind of like, dude, time to get off your video games, time to go to bed, time to like, and I was never really like serving him and loving him. Right. I was just kind of like the dictator. And so now he's, I love you, dad, like tuck me in. And it's just like this total shift with him that I see, which is super cool. So
nice. That's awesome, man. And what do you and your wife do for fun?
We like to go to concerts, like into EDM and concerts. There's a lot of good stuff around here in Austin.
Cool.
Obviously go out and eat, travel, all that fun stuff.
will you guys still take a trip, whether it's a couple days or a week without your kids now, or do you always travel together with your kids? This is a curious
No,
question.
we try to go out, just us. A little bit harder now because we had such good nannies in Utah, and so we're trying to find good people we can trust, with the kids when we leave. But
Well, your one kid's is pretty old now.
yeah, so like we do a staycation or something around here, it's easy for her. She's 16, she can hold it down. But if we go away on a trip for a long period of time, we obviously need someone here.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. So what else can we talk about here? That I have a whole list of questions and I want to go a million different ways, but what are your right now, like, what do your mornings look like? What do your nights look like? I'm curious.
Right now, I mean, it's pretty chill. Like we get up and then wife and I will just kind of hang out. We get the kids ready. And then I usually will go and just kind of check everything that I have going on as far as my investments and the research and kind of a few things that I'm doing. And then we'll usually grab lunch together, go to the gym. One of us will pick up one of the kids. My daughter can drive, but the other boys still need to be picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just kind of hang out and then we'll have dinner, and it's pretty low key right now. Most of my time's kind of spent like 3 or 4 hours a day just managing my money and researching and doing different things. I have a couple ventures that I'm not like an active role in, but that I'll play a little bit of a role.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. That's
all the hard work over the years has paid off for that. If looking back in those 12-hour days and stuff, do you think you could have accomplished what you've accomplished in, if you were able to manage your time better or more efficient with your days? Do you think that you needed to, this is, another curious question, but needed to work 12 hours a day?
I don't think I did. I don't think I did. I mean, it's a tough one, right? Because like, in starting out, when you're starting from zero, like I knew I had to outwork everyone. And so that allowed me to kind of move up in the company and eventually kind of do my own thing or whatever. And if I didn't have that progression of just outworking everyone and that relentless work ethic and, I don't know. It's tough. And then through therapy and stuff, I've learned I've had some real deep rooted fears of just not having money, being broke, just being a kid, not being around a lot of money, and my mom being stressed about money. And I just was very like, I can't be broke. I linked being broke to like almost like death. Like it was that, like that much of an impact to me, where if you have those type of feelings, you're not gonna be broke. Like you are gonna work as hard as you can to make money, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm learning to like just get rid of some of those crazy beliefs, because those can still like linger with me. And so I'll still wake up sometimes with anxiety and stuff. I'm like, no, you're good. Like you're okay. So
yeah,
pretty strange.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's deep rooted. I understand it completely. I was talking to somebody who was mentioning, they know billionaires that like get upset with their wife when they spend like $20 on stuff because they have that same deep rooted fear that you're talking about. Like, dude, you're never going to run out of money. Chill out. Like, stop. Like,
yeah. I was just watching the Kevin Hart thing on Netflix last night, and it was the first episode. He was talking about that. He's just like, I'm scared this will end. Like, what if it ends? And like, what am I gonna do with my money? And it's like, dude, you're worth a few $100 million. Like, you're good, dog. Like, but people tell me the same thing, right? Like, I'm not even close to Kevin Hart, but like, they'd be like, dude, you're good. Like, what are you tripping? But it's those beliefs that we have to get rid of.
Yeah. And you're talking to somebody about it. That's amazing. That's good. That takes, again, in the past, you were probably like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Right?
You talk about being a real man. It's like a real man doesn't feel like that's just, you're being a wuss if you have to go talk to someone about that, or, it's hindering you. But yeah, in the long run, it's not.
I'll ask you 2 questions here. First, what's your biggest struggle right now that you're working on? It can be relationship with your kids. It can be with your wife. It can be the work-life balance. I mean, what's your biggest struggle right now?
I think the biggest one is really figuring out what is going to make me most fulfilled. Like I just still haven't quite figured out like, this is exactly how I want to spend all my days, or this is what I want to do. I mean, that post that you'd mentioned or that you did earlier of like, if you had the 10 million bucks, would you start another business? Like, I'm trying to figure out like what fulfillment I got from being in business and how can I still apply that, and still have the focus be on my wife and kids and family. So I think the balance is still, I think there's always ebb and flows, right? There's always going to be deficiencies that you're lacking in some areas and you're strong in others, and just trying to figure out what that looks like. Yeah.
Fair enough. Interesting. Okay. And right, I guess you kind of answered this earlier, but you used to be most afraid of, losing money and not having enough. What would you say now as you're going through this transformation, what you're most afraid of?
I think, I think I'm most afraid of, losing my family, and then them having, just not having regret. I think that's the most, when you summarize it, right? Like, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever it is, having any regrets, like what could I have done things differently that I wish I would have done. And so I think regret is a powerful motivator. Totally. Yeah, I don't want to have any regrets, man. And I don't know exactly, like I said, what that is I want to do each and every day. I want to get more out of coast mode, and I want to be more, more of an impact on society, and whether that's through some charities or other things.
I'm really glad you said that. Yeah, I'm really glad you said that about having an impact on society and try to figure out which way you want to do that, and how you want to do it. Because you don't want to just pick something random and go with it and not be passionate about that topic, right? Or that philanthropy. I get it. I hope you find that soon, or sometime, I'm the same way. I would love to get into that more. And I just don't know exactly how or what yet, but yeah, I get it. You've done a lot in your life, Jamie. What do you think one activity or one thing somebody should experience if they're in their lifetime?
One thing they should experience?
Yeah. You're like, dude, you got to do this. Like, you got to try this, or you got to do it.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I've done skydiving. That's pretty cool. But I didn't think it was like that amazing. I don't know, man. I can't narrow it down to just one thing. What is the most awesome thing? You tell me. Maybe I need to go. Try something new.
You answered it. Skydiving. If there's anything that I would have anybody do is try skydiving. And the reason is because you have that fear building up as you go up. And I haven't ever said this before. So you have that fear the whole time, kind of when you're going up, you have excitement. And then as you know that you have to open that window and that door, like fear starts to hit you. You're like, oh my God, I'm about to hang my freaking feet over, that, right? Over the side. Cause you had somebody on you when you skydive, right? So you're about to hang and he's on the back of you. So you're facing the ground, like everything up there. And you like 1, 2, and then you just go and you just have to like let go of that fear and just overcome it and just go. And that's it. You're just there and there's no G-force and you're just floating and you're like, and you just realize how much that fear built up. Like you were, I don't get that scared, but there was definitely there. It was, and then you realize, oh, this isn't as bad as I was making it this whole time. This is actually amazing and beautiful. And it kind of relates to life, in my opinion, when people get so scared to have that conversation or to make that move in business or, whatever, talk to your wife about something that's been bothering you. And then once you do, you realize, oh man, that's a huge weight off my shoulder. And it wasn't as bad as I was making it seem. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's fair. For sure.
So that would be mine.
Except my experience when I skydive wasn't as nice. Like I did it when we were in Key West at one of the events. Like it was 2016. Yeah. The first year I went to Key West, and we were going up, and it was in the tiny Cessna that was like duct taped together, I swear. And we were going up, we're halfway up, and you know how you strap on, like when you get closer to the top to your instructor, right? So I'm not strapped in, and we're circling up, and all of a sudden the door flies open, and I'm sitting like right by where the door is. It just flies open. Yeah. So now I'm like looking at there, and I'm not strapped in or whatever. I'm like, what? This is not good. And they're like, it's all good. We'll get the door. So the guy reaches around, and the two guys that were strapped in, I was with my buddy Christian, they're bigger dudes too. So there's not much space in the plane. And he reaches over to try to shut the door, and he bumps the pilot. So the pilot turns the plane.
You're kidding me.
Now I'm like this, dude. I'm like outside of the like plane, and I'm not strapped in, and I'm holding on for like dear life.
Stop.
And I'm just like, dude, this is not how I'm going out. So I'd like a cat on like my buddy, just holding on out like cliffhanger style. And luckily, like the pilot flips the plane back, and we shut the door, and they're like laughing about it. And I'm like, there's nothing funny about what just happened. Like that was not. So I'm a little bit traumatized, but maybe I'll give it another go.
Wow. Well, you went out though, right?
Yeah, I mean you're already up, so it's kind of
yeah.
like, you know, I was like, well, yeah, let's just strap me in. Now I feel better, because I was like, well, what happened if I fell out? And he was like, I'd have to like try to come get you, and then hopefully we'd throw the chute in time. I'd strap you on while we're falling down.
He's like, no big deal. No big deal. We would have just done it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was horrible.
All right. So I don't know. Did you think of anything else while that conversation was going?
No.
Maybe some bottle service at the clubs or something.
Yeah. No, that's always get someone else to pick the tab up on that. That's always the lesson.
Yeah. 100%. Oh my God. All right. Well, man, this is this has been, I have a question, I guess. If you can go back to your 18-year-old self, and your 18-year-old self would listen, right? So that's important. He would listen. What would you say to him? What would you tell him?
Oh man. I think, I don't know, because like going back to your 18-year-old self, you would live, and if you had any knowledge of it, you'd live like a totally different, and it's like, then you wouldn't experience some of the things you experience that make you who you are. I don't think I would say anything. I think I would just smile and just be like, dude, enjoy the ride. Like, don't.
Dude, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. That's great. Just enjoy the ride. Life's going to teach you a lot, and just have fun and enjoy the ride. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks, Jamie. Is there anything else you want to add? Any words of wisdom that you think? I keep looking over here because I have my questions over here and you're the second person I've talked to, so I'm still getting used to them. But
words of wisdom. Yeah, I just think as a husband, as a father, it's not easy, obviously, having a business and trying to have that balance. But I think what I'm trying to do now is just have an inventory check every Sunday. Be like, how's the relationship with my kids? How am I doing health-wise? You know, what's going on with my wife and I? How is my money? And am I doing all the things that I want to be doing with it? And so got to have some type of like checks and balances into the other things that just not money. Money can't be the only scoreboard. There's other scoreboards, and if you don't pay attention to them, then you'll suffer for sure.
Do you use your therapist for some of that checks and balances?
Yeah, for sure.
I have at 3:30 today, I have my first ever one-on-one therapist appointment.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
First ever. I've been to a ton of couples therapy with my wife, but never one-on-one before. And I figured this year I'm going to do it. Yeah,
it's good. And couples is awesome too, but it's kind of nice to be able to have, a different perspective with your wife not there too. And so it just, it's been good. I've been good. I like it. I'm also going to be doing group as well. So I'm going to tailor back my personal therapy and then do group once a week as well.
Oh,
and see how that goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie. Thanks a lot, man. That was great.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
What do you think? You have any feedback for me?
I think it's great, dude. I'm definitely going to follow more content that you're doing, and